Hi guys, happy Friday. How are we feeling? It's early. But if I'm doing this, you guys are going to feel good. Yeah, wow, perspective. Okay, so my name's Dean. Hi. Probably like to start with a bit of an acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land in which we gather here today and where Fellens does business, the Yagara and Turrbal people of Meanjin. We pay our deepest respects to elders past, present and emerging. All right, let me just get myself set up here a little bit. So look, for me today was trying to pump you guys up a little bit because it's Friday. Friday's my favourite day of the week because I work in the beer industry. And it's probably the most dangerous day to be a beer. So yeah, let's feel good about today. Let's hopefully take you guys on a bit of a journey. Look, I just wanted to kind of share my experience and this chat is kind of what feels relevant for me at the moment to share with you all, and I hope you guys leave feeling pretty inspired. For me, family is everything. I'm very, very blessed and privileged to have a beautiful, harmonious upbringing. I grew up in a place called Hoppers Crossing, which is in the western suburbs of Melbourne. Has anybody heard of Hoppers Crossing before? Yeah. All right, cool. You're safe, don't worry. So I grew up in Hoppers Crossing. My dad is, I'm first generation Australian. Dad was born in Italy, Mum was born in Scotland. So my dad is a massive inspiration for me. His work ethic and his attitude towards living life is something that has just inspired me throughout my whole life. He's tenacious. If he wants something, he'll just go and get it. And I really admire that in him. I love him. It's Dominic Romeo. He's still here with us today, which is great. So I get to hang out with him and tell him that. Part of this chat, when I was going back and forth with Tamara, I got asked what my proudest creation was, or has been, and I instantly thought of my two daughters, which probably going to pull your heartstrings a little bit, but it was just a no-brainer. I wasn't the kind of guy that was overly excited about having children. We had our first daughter when I was basically 21, so pretty young. And when Mila, my eldest daughter, entered our lives, everything just kind of fell into place. It was pretty amazing. And I kind of just took things back to basics a little bit, gave me this hardcore reset and this clear perspective that we're really just here to create, and not just create children, but to create. And that feels really cool. And if you really just lean into the whole idea of creation, not just creating children, but if you're working on an illustration, or if you're working on packaging, or if you're working on some piece of content for your Instagram or a piece of writing, if you really just sit in that pure act of creation, I think there's something really special in that, and just kind of pulling on all the inspiration that's around you with that particular medium. I'm somebody that prides himself on just living in the moment. I think being present is one of the greatest tools that you can have to give yourself perspective, because the world is just changing so rapidly, like every single moment. So if you can be present, if you can get out of your head and just live in the moment, you can have a really good time. So for me, that whole thought process around having Mila, just kind of put me into my place, and I think, I realised that we're not really here to build empires. We're here to enjoy our short, fleeting time on this planet, and our human design intends to create. I get pretty philosophical, guys, so you just have to bear with me on that. In case you haven't realised already, I'm a pretty passionate individual. If I want something, I visualise it. And it's almost like there's a part of me that just kind of opens up and allows me to chase that thing down, that idea, that creation. Yeah, I work really hard on that passion, but yeah, it just feels really good. And I'm a very passionate individual, and I guess my story might help kind of articulate and pad that out a little bit for you guys. So, grew up in Hoppers Crossing. I was born in 1987. I realised from a pretty young age that I had this attraction to flavour and well-made kind of food, well-made drinks. It was probably because when I used to go to my nonna and nonna's house in Footscray, we used to have a highball of red wine, homemade red wine at the dinner table. And nonna actually made pretty decent wine, so yeah, I was like 13 years old drinking a highball of red wine and feeling pretty good on the way home in the car with mum and dad. So yeah, I think, you know, from those early days, you know, nonna cooked the most beautiful food. You know, and I've taken a few of the recipes along with me, which is great. I realised from a pretty young age that I just have this deep connection to flavour, and I love just experiencing all the different kind of ways that flavour can be represented, whether it's through alcohol or whether it's through a beautifully made soft drink or a nice dish. So yeah, it was that kind of attraction that led me to working at Shadowfax Winery. Has anybody ever heard of Shadowfax Winery? Oh, that's me. I look happy, that's good. Yeah, look how, yeah, I'm so focused. Yeah, has anybody heard of Shadowfax Winery before? Hey, Anna. Claire does. Okay, so Shadowfax Winery is a really interesting place. They grow grapes in Werribee, and it's not really a wine growing region, but they make really good wine. And everybody always constantly told Matt Harrop, who was the winemaker there for my tenure, who's now the head winemaker of Curly Flat, that, you know, stop wasting your time. You can't make good wine out of these grapes. And I was really lucky to spend, you know, about 3 or 4 years working there. It's a beautiful building, as you can see. Actually, underground, this is the restaurant area. Underground, there's a cellar, and there's a spiral staircase in this red tube. We used to do some pretty naughty things down there. But yeah, I used to work as the front of house supervisor at Shadowfax for a few years, and the reason why I wanted to kind of talk about this part of my journey is because every Friday the head winemaker, Matt Harrop, would bring out on a table, similar to the tables that you guys are sitting on today, they'd bring out like 6 to 8 bottles of wine bottles wrapped in foil. So it was a blind tasting. These bottles could have been from anywhere in the world, from any vintage and any style. And everybody was welcome at this table. The gardener, the pizza chef, the cellar door team, the head winemaker, the assistant winemaker, everybody was welcome. And I thought that was really powerful. And it didn't matter whether you knew your stuff or not. It was a blind tasting, and you're invited to smell the wine, you're invited to taste the wine and enjoy it, and kind of pass feedback on where you think that wine was grown, or that grape was grown, where you think that wine was made, the topography of the soil, what vintage you believe that wine was made in. It was this really steep learning curve, and it was pretty impressive to be exposed to that. And yeah, for me, I think that opened a few doors in my mind around inclusivity and the importance of allowing everybody to have a seat at the table, which is pretty cool. So it was also at Shadowfax one year at the staff party. We got a keg of Little Creatures Bright Ale. So my idea of beer up until that point was that it wasn't very good. Dad only ever had Crown Lager, VB, Melbourne Bitter in the fridge. Nothing against those beers. There's a time and a place for everything. I actually drink a lot of them every now and again. But that was my introduction to beer, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very flavourful. It was well balanced. I didn't think it had much of a story behind it. And I think what it represented was not, at that time, not very exciting for me as a young male. So we got this keg of Little Creatures Bright Ale at the staff party. We tapped it, and I remember looking at the decal, the keg cap, and thinking, wow, this brand looks cool. And I instantly felt like this magnetism towards the artwork on the keg cap. I tried the beer and my mind was absolutely blown. I had an epiphany moment. We call this in our industry an epiphany beer. Everybody has an epiphany beer. One beer that they had that kind of changes the course of their appreciation of beer. So Little Creatures Bright Ale was that for me. I was living in Hoppers Crossing at the time. I didn't have a hell of a lot going for myself. I mean, obviously I had a great job at Shadowfax. Hoppers Crossing at that time was pretty rough. And I was just struggling to find a kind of future progression for myself. And this tasting of Little Creatures Bright Ale just opened these doors in my mind, and I instantly became curious about, Little Creatures Bright Ale and what that brand was about. And there was nothing really online about it. It was just that it was this awesome, inclusive, dynamic brewing company on the far reaches of the west coast of Australia. So funny story that night. We're all just hanging out drinking the Little Creatures Bright Ale, and Matt Harrop, the winemaker, he just disappeared at one point, and we're like, okay, cool, no worries. It's time to have a bit more fun. So I think one of the guys rolled a big fat hooter, and we proceeded to smoke a joint in the winery. And we thought we were the kings and queens of the world. And about 20 minutes later, Matt Harrop stumbles in and he's covered in hay. Like, it's just covered in hay. And we're like, Matt, how are you? He's like, yeah, really good. I just had a nap. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So he just went out to the vineyard, had a little nap, came back in. Lucky we had a little bit of the joint for him so he could jump on the end of it with us. Cool. You know, the funny thing about love is when you truly don't want it, it will almost always appear. Think about that for a minute. When you don't want it, it will truly almost always appear. So a few weeks later, after this experience at the staff party, I was down at the skate park because I like skateboarding. Skateboarding's good for me. It's momentum, keeps my mind rolling, which is great. It's a very personal kind of endeavour for me. Me and my mate Matty met this guy. His name is Gizmo. He's a German backpacker. This is all true. As I said that, I realised that it doesn't sound true, but it is. So his name's Gizmo. We're at the skate park. We're having a great time. He is absolutely ripping. And he ended up coming back to our house that night. We had a bit of a party. We hung out. We got to know Gizmo a little better. And he told us that he was driving across the country. And he had 2 spare seats. And I was like, damn, no, I can't. Fuck, that sounds awesome. But I can't do that. I can't leave Hoppers Crossing. Like, everything that I know, my whole world is here. All my friends, all my family, all my connections, got a great job. How could I just leave? Anyway, so we politely declined. Gizmo set off on his merry way the first thing the next morning. And it got to about 1 o'clock that day. I went into work. I was working at a surf shop as well as Shadowfax at the time. Got to about 1 o'clock and I just had this emptiness starting to form inside me. I was like, oh, I don't feel good. And as the day wore on, it got larger and larger. And I just felt a bit fake, which is weird. And I got home from work, I called my mate Matty and I'm like, Matty, I think I'm gonna fly to Adelaide and go meet Gizmo. And he's like, Dino, I've been thinking about that all day as well. Let's go. So I had no money. I had about $200 and a credit card of about $1,000 that I probably spent about $300 on. So what's that? Yeah, like $1,000, give or take. Bought the tickets to Adelaide, jumped on the plane, met up with Gizmo in Adelaide. He met us at the airport, thank God, because the whole way there we were like, this is kind of weird. Is this guy gonna like kill us along the way? Like we didn't really know him, other than he was just an absolute shredder. So we met him. First thing we did is we went to Ray's Tent City, because I had to sleep somewhere, so I bought like a $100 tent, so $900 now. And we proceeded to drive across the Nullarbor towards Western Australia, and in my mind, in the back of my mind, I just had Little Creatures Bright Ale just twinkling, like a beautiful little memory. Eventually, that was an amazing journey. I don't want to kind of go too far into that. I can share more with anybody that wants to know. We eventually got to Little Creatures in Fremantle, and I walked in, and it was the most incredible building, similar height, I guess, to the Felons Barrel Hall. It's a converted boat shed, come crocodile farm, come brewery. I walked in, the place was jumping. It was Good Friday, so actually really, really close. 1 week from today, which would have been 2009, 15 years ago. Walked in, place was jumping, energy was just dynamic, electric, food coming out of the kitchen, beers getting poured. I walked straight up to the cashier, and there's this beautiful, mesmerising lady there, short, bright red hair, pixie haircut, pretty alternative. And I walked straight up to her and I said, "Hey." She goes, "Hello?" I said, "Hey, my name's Dean. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I've tried Little Creatures Bright Ale and I know I need to work here. Can you give me a job, please?" She's like, "Mate, it's Good Friday. Like, come on, it's middle of lunch service. Can you go away, please?" I was like, "Oh, all right." So I walked away, licked my wounds, and I thought, you know what? That's a blow, but I think I can do this still. The next day was Easter Saturday, and yeah, you'll call me stupid, but I went straight back in. Exact same time too. I was just so fixed on this place, right? I was so fixed on it. I walked straight in. Same woman was there behind the cashier, short, bright red hair, pixie cut, alternative, pretty serious, but absolutely beautiful. Walked straight up to her, "Hey, how you doing?" And she looks up, she's a bit more surly this time. And I'm like, "Hey, sorry, me again, I know. Look, I really just need a job here. I know that I'm supposed to work here. I love everything about the brand. Do you got any chance that you guys have some hours going?" Mind you, by this stage, I had like no money left. I was surviving on meagering. And I just wasn't prepared to take another job. I needed to work here. She's like, "Dude, you just did the same thing you did yesterday. Can you go away, please? It's the middle of lunch service, man." Like, I'm pretty sure she said fuck off, but yeah, anyway. The next day was Easter Sunday. I'm like, all right, cool my jets, have a breather. Then it was Easter Monday, so I'm like, cool my jets, have a breather. And then it was Tuesday, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go in today, and I'm gonna get it. And I went straight in, same woman behind the cashier, doing the exact same thing. I'm like, no way, does this chick even leave? Like, this is amazing. Walked straight up to her, got my resume in my hand. I've got a tie-dye shirt on. I've got long hair at that stage. I've got this, I look like a hippie. I walked straight up to her and I'm like, "Hey," and she instantly smiles and I'm like, yes. I'm like, "Hey, it's me again." Just internally, I didn't do that outwardly. Internally, I was like, yes. I was like, "Hey, I know, sorry, but is there any chance you guys are looking for workers? Because I really want a job here." She's like, "I admire your tenacity here." And I'm like, "Thank you." And she grabbed my resume, walked around the back to an office. She disappeared. And out comes the venue manager, and he sits down, he goes, "Do you want to smoke?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure." And then he sits down, we have a bit of a chat, and he goes, "Yeah, look, that particular manager, she never comes in here with resumes." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Yeah, so off the back of her kind of feeling, I'm just going to write your hours for next week on the back of your resume." So I got the job. I started out as a glassy, as everybody does when you worked at Little Creatures at the time. I ran food, I ran drinks, I fell in love. It turns out that woman that was knocking me back is actually the love of my life, Claire Ritchie. Hello. She was a manager at Little Creatures at the time. And after a few weeks after that, I was like, I love, who is orchestrating this brand? And I found out that it was a gentleman named Miles Hull. And this is when we set up Little Creatures in Geelong. That was actually an original sign from when Little Creatures was opened in 1999/2000. Steve Simons is one of the original architects for Little Creatures. And this is the back of the head of Pia, who's our brewery director's wife here at Felons, but she used to be a manager for us at Little Creatures in Geelong. Where was I? Sorry, I just had to share that with you. So this Miles Hull guy, I was like, who is this guy? How is he orchestrating this cool brand? Found him, met him, and instantly I was like, I want to do what you do. And I visualized that. And I can't, that's how I got to where I am now. I'm a brand director of Felons Brewing Co. in Brisbane. And I met this guy and I loved what he did. And I just thought, wow, wouldn't that be just such a cool job to do? Such a great way to give back to a community. Such a cool way to validate my love and thirst for flavour. So it was a pretty hard road. I didn't just click my fingers and get here, that's for damn sure. We set up Little Creatures. I worked at Little Creatures for about 5.5 years. We had our first kid in Freo. Claire's from Fremantle. We got relocated to Geelong. I got tasked with, so I worked my way up to venue manager position. I got tasked with the job of transplanting the culture into Geelong. That was really fun, but at the same time, Little Creatures got bought by Lion, which is a big global enterprise. And my role was just plugging holes from the corporate beast and keeping the culture of the front of house team pretty positive and light and airy. So that wasn't a lot of fun. Anyway, I spoke to a mentor at the time and he was like, Dino, if you want to do marketing, you got to understand sales. You gotta get your head around sales because marketing and sales go hand in hand. And I was like, oh man, really? Sales sucks. But I did it because I just visualized the goal and I just slowly but surely just chipped away at it. And look, this was a really fun, see I had hair. I had hair at one point. This was a really fun part of our life, but also a really hard part of our life. So we started a gypsy brewing company, so that basically means when you brew beer that isn't on your own pots and pans. We didn't have our own brewery, we contract brew. We created this beautiful beer called Good Times Ale, which, in hindsight, probably wouldn't get across some marketing bodies, but that's all right, it was fun. It was lower alcohol, so it was all about, good times with moderation. So I did sales in Melbourne for about 4 years. We relocated from Geelong to Melbourne. We lived in Preston. We had our second daughter, Freya, who's just a bright, shining light. This was really hard, and I think this was probably where I hit a little bit of rock bottom because we didn't have the tools that you needed to run a successful brewing company. We often talk about the tripod of success in this industry, which is people, product, and place. We didn't have place. So we were a two-leg tripod. So that's not really gonna work. But, I unrelentingly, is that a word? Unrelenting? Anyway, against all odds, I was focused on doing my part, which was selling that beer into the best restaurants and bars in Melbourne. And I did that, which was pretty cool. 5 minutes? Fuck, I've got to run. All right, cool. Sorry, I like to have a bit of a spiel. Anyway, sales is really hard. I developed a skin condition on my face. I basically had adult acne, I had cysts. The stress was like literally coming through my face, which was pretty crazy. So it got to a point where I'm like, you know what, I can't carry this thing, I gotta go. But because I put the hard work in there, and because I guess I was that stressed, it put me on the radar for Ash Cranston and Adam Flaskas, who owns Howard Smith Wharves, to be the first marketing manager of Felons Brewing Co. And that was in 2018, and we moved to the Sunshine State. Woo! And we've had a really great time. This place is seriously Wonderland, Disneyland for adults. So when it comes to my experience here, I'm really just passionate about creating really compelling brand experiences and products for people. This is a recent kind of rebrand or evolution, if you will, of one of our core SKUs. So it was originally called Natural Ale. In December of 2018, right after we opened, I'm not sure if you guys remember, if you were a part of it, but we ran out of beer like within 6 weeks. It was pretty embarrassing. But also, you know, big pat on the back, whatever. And we made this beer, and it was like a really quick fermentation. It was light, it was tropical, it was vibrant, it was cloudy, and Brisbane drank it in 3 days, 2,500 litres in 3 days. And we called it Natural Ale because we're like, yeah, it's natural, you know, like it's got natural malts, it's got, you know, naturally grown hops. We used a little bit of organic wheat in it, but it just didn't really stick. So we got to a point where we needed to rebrand it, and we did a whole lot of exploration in what the positioning of the beer needed. Now, Galaxy is the name of a hop that's grown in Victoria. We had this inspirational brewing company from the United States and California called Firestone Walker. They've got a beer called Mind Haze. We have this genuine connection to beautiful made local ingredients, which is the Galaxy hops, and we wanted to do good. We wanted to kind of use this beer as a vehicle to celebrate the really hard work that our farmers do growing the grain for these beers. So that's why it's called Galaxy Haze. So it shines a light on these beautiful hop farms. That's the video that I took when we were driving through the hop farms. Probably shouldn't have taken it, but anyway. Yeah, so if you guys ever get a chance to try Galaxy Haze, it's really Oh, did we do audio?
Yes.
Actually, you know what? I'll skip the Imperial Stout, but basically another example of, you know, me trying to just create a compelling brand experience. I can talk while it's playing. Is each year we brew an Imperial Stout, and it's pretty bloody good. We've got one of the best Imperial Stout brewers in the country, if not the world, Lincoln Gibbs. And you know, it's not just enough to make an award-winning stout. We wanted to create, you know, some really compelling content around it. So we've invented this Imperial Stout Space Odyssey, this world, this universe for the Imperial Stout. And basically, it's this protagonist who is, you know, just out there in the ether. And finds themselves in these different kind of environments where they discover that year's Imperial Stout. This particular year we went all out. I used a really great CGI artist called Jack Hawkins, who's based in London, and he helped us kind of render this animation for the release of the 2022 Imperial Stout. That's wild, hey? So that went really well. Really proud of this latest collab that we did. So Madre Mezcal is a brand that I've admired for a really long time. Mezcal is this true connection to the earth. And yeah, really proud of this collab. I think this is an example of working really hard and not taking no for an not really taking no for an answer. They didn't really want to do it, and then I kind of said, hey guys, like, we're aligned. You know, I explored how sustainable we are here. Like, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but we divert 97% of all our waste from this site from landfill. No hospitality precinct is doing that here in this country, maybe even the world. We use a system called GoTerra, which uses black soldier fly larvae to eat all the food waste, and it results in us having basically no waste. So pretty impressive. So I shared all these kind of feats that we've done, and they were like, well, look, we've never collaborated with another brand before. And I said, I know, but I'm telling you we're the right fit. And yeah, lucky they had faith in us. It's an absolutely delicious beer. There's a few cans left and it's on tap as well. Cool. This is another little cool shoot that we did called the Good Life series. It's all about the good life. We're just playing with beer, folks, not too serious. That's Kate from Full Flower Moon Band. She's amazing. That's Jack Thompson, who is an incredible 16mm videographer. It's really cool to get those two people together and create a series. You can check that out on the website. This venue right here is probably, next to the children, one of my proudest achievements. It was a pivot, but instead of putting a wood-fired pizza oven in here like you get next door, we wanted to completely unearth a side of the Felons brand that we hadn't really tapped into before. So this space is all about creativity, innovation, being brave, and kind of, you know, if Felons master brand is our right foot, then the Barrel Hall is kind of like our left foot. And you know, we don't look, for me, hospitality. If we can add more meaning to hospitality, that's really cool. Even though it's such a meaningful industry, we are a beer brand first and foremost. So when it came to this space, I convinced Adam and the guys to let us put these barrels in here and start, you know, a new kind of beer production. So facility, there's just shy of 26,000 litres in these barrels. Each of them is full with beer. And they soak in every live music gig. They soak in this energy that we're giving them today in this room. And they age for around anywhere between 12 to 26 months. And then eventually we put them in these tall format champagne bottles for people to enjoy. It's kind of like this intersection of where wine meets beer. Really, really yummy. Everyone told us it wouldn't work. Finance said it wouldn't work, suppliers said it wouldn't work, and our friends said it wouldn't work. It's too weird. It's too weird. Why would you have Thai food, barrel-aged beer, and live music? That's just not going to work, Dean. I think that's a great example of innovation often being the hardest road, but the most rewarding. So stick it out, friends. You got this. We held tight to our vision. We've created something so much more meaningful than what we wrote on paper, which was just, you know, an extension of Felons. And I'm really proud of the work that we're doing with the creative community. Tomorrow helps us so much with the Great Artist Market. If you guys haven't experienced the Great Artist Market yet, the next one probably be, I don't know, middle of the year or something like that. We'll see. Or now you know. We've got a commitment to making products with soul, and we use no shortcuts. This is some really cool live music vibes. That's Regurgitator. Pretty cool to have here. That's Alana Sapwell at the Eltham Hotel. These people are really special. They help us create really meaningful brand experiences and content. Oh, the universe. Wow. How are we going? Do you guys got to go? All right. You got to flip this room. What's the time now?
It's 5 to.
Okay, we're good. Okay. It's not going to take long. Well, I just think it's fascinating that the edges of the universe are forever expanding outward, and our bodies and our mind have the ability to forever expand inward. To feel the depth and the beauty of life is capable of expanding. So, you know, forest needs fires, volcanoes need implosions, stars need gas. Everything in nature is imperfect, and this is the perfect environment for growth. We all have more potential in us. I think it's cool to think of ourselves as a mountain. It's a towering landmass that we need to conquer, and we can conquer. Self-sabotage sucks. We all do it, and it's okay to be at rock bottom. Rock bottom is the turning point. Against all odds, all feelings, it's time to turn into a phoenix and find your way out. You can reinvent yourself as many times as you like. The deeper the wounds, the stronger the potential drive is in you. Radical change is good. Maybe you need change. I guess my experience in going to Little Creatures was a pretty radical change, and that's really created an incredible life for me. Your new life, if you go down that way, will cost you your old life or your current life. And I think you should be okay with that, because you'll build a new comfort zone with people that mean more to you, and values that align with your true north. Okay, perspective for me lies in showing up, being genuine, being social, having a play, releasing your inner child, being aware of my development opportunities and my spiritual connection. We all deserve to feel comfy living with who we are. Who you are has made an incredible impact on the world around you. I think we're quick to dismiss the currents that influence in our friends, our family, our work, but you need to celebrate yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back for being you. We don't do that enough. Do it your way, friends. Give people more than they expect. I thought that was kind of cool. Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. I'll take the second any day of the week. Aim higher and you'll land higher. I like that. Thanks.